Good morning. We are at the Toulouse School of Economics for their annual Energy Market Conference. And I, as Florence, will welcome Frank Wolak. Frank is professor at Stanford University. He's also, and for more than 10 years, chairman of the Market Surveillance Committee in California. We are very proud in the EU to start market monitoring, but we have little experience, while Frank has more than a decade, so we are going to try to learn from Frank. Hello Frank, welcome in Toulouse at the Electricity Market Conference from Jean Tirole. I have to introduce you to the Europeans. You are a professor at Stanford University. You are the founder, the pioneer in the economics of market monitoring. And you do it since more than a decade. You did start even in the former century. Today in Europe, we are very proud starting market monitoring, but we do not know anything. You know the job, you did create it. So Frank, in your opinion, in the 12 years or around 12 you have been chair of the Market Surveillance Committee in California, what did you learn, what did you discover?
Certainly, I think the first one was the necessity of a market monitoring process, in that these are extremely complex markets that are constantly changing and therefore require continual adjustment to the market rules in response to technology, in response to differences in market participant characteristics and things like this. So I guess that would be the biggest lesson I learned, which is really I think the necessity of having a market monitoring process and having someone who has no real stake in the market that's looking to see that the market is performing well and providing, I guess, what I would call smart sunshine regulation to the market, in the sense of providing unbiased analysis to the stakeholder process, to the regulatory process.
Frank, you are kind of hero in the econometrics of energy markets. What can you tell us in Europe regarding the database, the econometrical tools? What are the needs and what are the difficulties in this aspect of the problem?
In terms of the data necessary for analysis and the methods necessary for analysis, I think there certainly is a lot of new methods have been developed in the last 20 years, and I think that the biggest one, though, is just simply having access to the data to be able to perform the analysis. I don't think that the methods that you use in many instances need to be as very sophisticated to get useful information to contribute to the process. I think certainly in many instances more sophisticated methods can help you to answer, if you like, more detailed questions. But for the most part, I think the big issue is the access to the data is the important part of the market monitoring process.
Frank, we have to dig a little bit more into the replicability of your Californian experience. In California, you did monitor a local market, let's say a state market. But are the difficulties and the remedies the same for a bigger market, a regional one, or even a continent-wide, like in the US or in the EU?
I think the important thing is that you get from expanding this. You certainly want to have the market monitoring process to be defined over the area that the electricity market operates. So certainly one of the big problems in California was seeing what would happen outside of California, and given California's significant dependence on imports, it was difficult just seeing data in California to be able to see really exactly what was going on. So having access to information beyond over the area that covers the market, I think is very important. Another aspect that I think is important in expanding to Europe is comparative analyses, and this is something that's happening in the US as well, is that comparing various measures and indices looking across markets, and I think you can therefore then get a better idea of, the ancillary services market or the energy market in this part of the country is working better than, say, in this part of the country. Why is that? And look at if you can trace it to differences in market rules or market participant behavior or other kinds of things I think that can provide a very valuable source of information. You could think of it in the case of just California, you can sort of think of it as California today versus California tomorrow. But if you're able to look across markets, you have the ability to say this market versus California today and this market versus California tomorrow, and therefore get more, I think, information about what's happening in the markets.
Now to conclude, we are in a quite different world. In California, like in the EU, we are mitigating climate change, we are pushing renewable, we are looking for more energy efficiency. In this very new context, is market monitoring the same thing or something pretty different or more difficult?
I think it becomes a bit more, it can become a bit more difficult, and the reason for that is that oftentimes what happens is that different sources of energy get maybe special privileges. So for example, renewable energy in many markets does not have to worry about the fact that it's intermittent or in the sense of pay for imbalances or pay for the ancillary services that it might require the system to purchase. And this, if you, it creates problems in terms of entities that might own portfolios of renewable generation and thermal generation, and understanding, maybe the reason that their intermittent generation is so intermittent is because it's profitable for their thermal generation, versus the reason it's intermittent is truly because it's intermittent. And if you have these subsidy schemes in place, it makes that problem of determining those kinds of things and figuring out what to do much more difficult. So as long as you, I think, treat all sources of energy symmetrically, I think you minimize those challenges, but I think it does create greater challenges for you to try to monitor the market in the midst of greater emphasis on renewables and energy and efficiency and the like.
Frank, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
It's always a pleasure meeting you and hearing from you. Now you can enjoy the conference.
Thank you.